All right, it is Thursday afternoon, night, whatever the fuck time it is, 7:30 on the East Coast. We're coming at you live, another conference preview. We didn't take the day off yesterday. We jumped on Gorilla Sports Radio for Jose's Straight Bet Sports show for an hour and a half last night at midnight. So that was our thing because we're going live at you every single day while March Madness is going on. And another conference preview to get into. You see, we got our main man Goose back in action. We got Steven Carlson with us. And, since Goose has showed up, Spin will be here as well. He's just plugging in his mic and getting everything ready. We're just on a little bit of a time crunch for something, but it's all good here because the SoCon, it's all up for grabs. But the show is powered and sponsored by Daily Bread Media. That's where we're currently live on YouTube. So you can jump into the comments, tell him he has a great haircut going on. The lighting makes it look like he might have an ASMR voice when it comes up, but we'll see what it is with our main man Goose. We're also live on Twitter at Paid for Play, the #1 college sports, football, baseball, basketball. We got you covered in each one of them, and we got our man Spin ready. So we got all four of us, the usual crew from Paid for Play Saturday show. So we'll be back live at 10:30. But that's enough talking for me. Like and retweet. Steven, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I don't know how much more people want to keep seeing my face and hearing me talk every day, but guess what? It's March. It's conference tournaments, bro. There isn't enough content to do over this weekend, next week. So you're going to keep seeing me till you're really tired of it. But hopefully that day is not today.
Goose, it's your not your #1 conference. It's probably your #2, I would have to say. But how you doing, my man?
Yeah, Big Ten to the heart. If you guys saw that Rutgers game last night, what they say? He did it against Purdue. Can he do it against Indiana? Ron Harper at the buzzer. But SoCon, I love this conference. I think it's one of the best mid-major conferences. It's I wouldn't call it down this year, but normally it's a lot higher. Still a strong conference and so up for grabs. I'm excited to talk about the different teams.
Spin, how you doing?
Doing good. There's there's a lot of Maction going on right now. So the whole conference is playing. So I'm in a great mood when I can watch 5 or 6 MAC games at once.
All right. Well, the MAC, we'll probably come into that one eventually. I guess we'll have to cover that one because there's a few that we haven't gotten to. We apologize if that's your conference. But one thing that we know in the SoCon, because we're going to get into it, not much defense is played in this conference. Few rank a little bit at it, but overall as a conference as a whole, this is one where you see your higher totals, even though we think it's a conference that has a lot of true tempo pace. There's really only like 4 teams that play with pace now. The rest have kind of been going against the grain to slow it down because they haven't been able to handle it. We see a nice focus on 3-point attempts in this conference too. So if that's something that you're into, it's probably a good one for you. But tournament starts tomorrow. We got 2 games. And then you got 6 teams with a bye to the next round. And then we got games Friday, Saturday, Sunday with the championship on big ESPN, 7 p.m. Monday. You guys already know the teams in the conference here. But odds-wise, that's what we're going to get into here because I completely think it's up for grabs. There's the season winner with Chattanooga. Then you got Furman on the tails. I don't know. I just think this one, as what we've seen previously, the outright winner usually doesn't take it there. So we're talking odds, I'll rattle off the top 4, and then we'll say who we're crossing off because it gets a little bit uglier odds-wise after the top 4. So we got Furman at +190, Chattanooga at +210, Wofford at +470, and Uncg, new coach, but still at +750. You got the rest of the board with +1,000 or more odds. So is there anybody that we're instantly crossing off here?
Well, I mean,
I got a few teams.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm really just only completely crossing off the bottom three. Western Carolina, I see no chance at. And then VMI and the Citadel, I mean, they kind of fit the mold of the conference with just up tempo, a lot of scoring, but I think their defenses are just so much worse than the other teams, kind of like average to below average defenses, and they're too streaky for me. Like I don't even think they have the consistency to keep a controlled hot streak for 3 games. Like they might upset a team, maybe two, but I don't see any of those bottom three finding a way out of this tournament.
Yeah, that's pretty close with the ones that I was going to cross off. I mean, I think, I mean, you can cross off Western Carolina pretty easily here, and you know, I would actually, I'm going to leave VMI just ever so slightly, just because they do have the ability to just catch fire, and they have actually played teams in this conference that are much better than them, pretty tough. I'm not sure that there would be enough value, but you might hear about them later, about maybe an upset or two. Citadel, yeah, they play absolutely no defense. They don't shoot the ball well enough to make up for that, so I'm fine with crossing them off as well.
Goose, I know you're a nice guy, but who are you just even saying if they gave you a free play on it that you could even try to invest your money in that because you'd feel too bad?
So I actually want to cross off Wofford because I believe if you take Wofford on the money line, the 3 games that they got to win, that it'll be a better price than plus, was it 470? They'll probably be a favorite against VMI, but they're going to be a decent dog against Chattanooga, and they're going to be a decent dog against probably Furman. So I don't like that price at all. So they could win the conference, but that price is something that I really don't like because they have to go up against probably the top 2 teams, being in the 4 seed. Other than that, yeah, I'll cross off the bottom 2 teams. What was it, Western Carolina and the Citadel. I'll cross them off. Yeah.
I even don't want to cross off Western Carolina, even though I think they completely have no shot of it. It's just that bottom part of the bracket, I believe, is completely up for grabs there. And to Goose, to what you said, maybe team-wise, Wofford could win it, but at plus 400, you're not getting your plus EV or your best odds because that's where the Citadel's crossed off on mine. I'm crossing off via mine as well. I'm basically crossing off ETSU. It's just that bye that we've seen in the SoCon does a decent impact on it. And Chattanooga right now is at a level where ETSU could catch them, but I don't think it's going to be a double-digit spread in that game there. And that's just kind of where Chattanooga has too many of the horses to get past it there. The Wofford VMI might be one of your low-key best matchups other than Mercer-Furman. Because I know Goose talk Furman to me, or Mercer to me, because I know you're thinking about probably putting a future on them. If not, you already did.
Yeah, so in Rex's old journey when he used to host these conference tournaments, last year I rocked Mercer at the 6th seed to win the conference tournament, and they made it to the championship. They lost to Uncg, but no, I actually I'm not really feeling Mercer this year. A lot of talent is left. I don't like how they finished the year. And just them being a 7 seed, having to win that extra game. I don't want to say I'm
scary last year, though.
No, they were a 6 seed last year, I believe.
But still.
But yeah, that one extra game I think matters a lot.
Still there. It's not like Mercer from last season has became world beaters on defense. I mean, I know it's regressed a little bit there. Mm-hmm. They're still not hitting in the offensive boards, but is it just because they didn't pull off any upsets whatsoever in conference play this year compared to last is really the one thing that they had. They never really took down the top dog.
Yeah, I don't think they have the sauce this year like some of the other teams do. I just I loved them last year as a value play, and they almost got me there, but not really feeling them this year.
All right, so no Mercer upset over Furman. Steven, who's the upset that you got looking out for in this tourney?
The upset that I could actually sneaky see, because when it all just depends if they can get hot for a game. Like, their shooters are good enough, and when they're shooting well, their defense plays well. I could honestly see ETSU come in the second round and beat Chattanooga. It's not something I'm expecting, but just from some of the games I've watched ETSU play against some of the top teams, like the way they played against Furman. Granted, that game was at home, so on a neutral floor, I don't know if it's the same. But ETSU is one of the more storied programs in this conference. Even if it might be a new coaching staff, like just the school, the program as a whole knows how to win in this conference. They know how to have success. I think them going in a game where they're going to be completely pretty much written off, I think they could come in playing free and loose and do what we've seen some of these 12 seeds in other conferences do against teams that they should have no shot against and come in and win.
So then, Goose, you said Mercer's not your upset to look for. Who is your upset to look for?
You know, I basically blanked on that because it's the team they're playing. Western Carolina, I think, will beat Mercer. Against the spread, which isn't wins or losses, against the spread, Western Carolina is a very good road team. This is a neutral site, I believe. But they're the best road team against the spread in the conference. And they're so they're a good road team, and they're a good just cover team in general. So I think they're going to get a close game with Mercer. And once the game gets close, the closer these tournament games get, the more pressure gets on the favorite at the end of the game. And if it's a 3-point game with 2 minutes left, the pressing begins. And I think Western Carolina advances in the first game.
Yeah, and in the most recent matchup that was just on the 19th, they called them 69-65. It was at home, but they got them for 23 for 36 from the 2-point offense. So they've done it once. That's what I like. I don't like to see that they lost to them twice. Spin, who do you have as your upset?
I said don't write off VMI because I'm going VMI over Chattanooga after they beat Wofford. And here's why. So VMI has already beaten Chattanooga once this year. They split with them. And even in the game that they lost, they actually led by 7 about midway through, actually more than midway through the second half. But VMI, as we know, they're a streak shooting team. As they shoot is as they win or lose. So they are number 1 though in the conference in 3-point percentage. 3-point, they're actually almost number 1 in the whole country in 3-point attempts for the whole season. But they've played Chattanooga very, very tough. And so I think that when you get them, Goose just talked about it, when you get them in a close game like this and it gets to be middle of the second half, if you have a VMI team that's playing loose and free, as with the number of threes that they bomb, that's pretty much what they do, because it doesn't matter if they're making 1 or 100, they're just going to keep firing. If you get a 1 seed like that in a position where you're ahead midway through the second half, this is one that I could easily see VMI knocking off Chattanooga in the second round. So I would agree about taking off Wofford right off the bat, but for the plus odds that I would probably get in that type of game, which I would assume would be probably like a plus 240 or almost plus 260 if they were matched up in conference tournament quarterfinal, I would take VMI given the history here.
All right. It might be a baby dog, but it'd be an underdog that you guys, I don't think, would expect. Stanford's got the 3 line next to them, but they're going to be dogs against Uncg, in my opinion here. And it could end up just being a pure pick 'em. They could open at the -1, but that's also where I think Stanford wins this matchup here. They've been the much hotter team. That loss to Citadel in early February looks bad, but other than that, their only blemish in over 10 games was Chattanooga. So they're getting hot at the right time, and Chattanooga is the last game of the season. So they were sitting at 11-8 at one point. They're now 20-10. So they were able to clean it up with Stanford. And that's just kind of where after Stanford gets past Furman, I think they could clip Furman, but I'll keep it to the first one here of Stanford getting past UNCG. Maybe not a big plus money dog, but it'll be, I think, one that'll close as a dog.
It's pretty wild, too. The 3 seed has like the 6th best odds.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, honestly, I was about to bring that up, but I was about to bring it up going the other way. I kind of like UNCG here in that first game. Maybe not from just a straight talent perspective, but Stanford's best players are all essentially underclassmen still. And underclassmen in tournament games, it goes one of two ways. Either they're not worried about anything and they have great games, like that fucking freshman from Little Rock had today where he put down, what was it, 8 threes or some shit like that?
400 threes, yeah.
Yeah. So either Stanford's young guys will come out and play like that and they'll roll and they'll have a nice run, or they're going to play tight in some of their first like real winner go home games of their career in college. So what I do like about Greensboro is they have a really good mix of seniors and juniors that get a lot of their playing time. I think this might be one of those spots where just the veteran team comes out and just they just know how to win the game. I think better than a team that relies on a backcourt of 2 sophomores and a freshman for the most part.
Yeah, and Steve, Steven, they are young, but 2 games I look at that I really like for Stanford. They beat 2 bad Power 5 schools, but they did beat Oregon State, who's been trashed, but they're a big name, and they beat Ole Miss, who's like 12th in the SEC. But I agree, they're young, but when the name on the jersey is a big name, they still showed to go in there pretty fearless. So I like that part about them, though.
Yeah, and going back to Steven's point about the underclassmen, that's actually held true in a lot of these mid-major or small conferences, is that when your team is specifically led by an underclassman, and no matter how talented they are, this can be the moment that can sometimes just prove to be a little too big for them. And I just a real quick go back to Chattanooga because they're led by Malachi Smith, but he's a sophomore. He's been a dynamite sophomore, but he's still a sophomore playing in this type of situation in March. History is not on his side, so I'll go with the history here, which is and just with all the points that Steven said too about when you have a team that's primarily made up of younger guys in moments like this.
All right, well, let's stick in this. I mean, the Stanford and UNCG matchup, just because you can go a little bit more coaching wise. This is where the veterans and that changes. Mike Jones, he was at Rad for a while, Big South. Still, it's a different conference. He only got to the 20 once in his tenure there. Decent teams there, probably favored in some of them because he had 15 wins in conference play some years, but never got the job done. The first time he's going through the SoCon bracket, that's just kind of where, sure, on the other end of it, it's not like Bucky McMillan has done it. He's only done it once before. At least he's been there in my perspective within the conference tournament perspective. The other one has more. I'm rocking with Goose on this one, so I guess we'll be split on who we have advancing here. So we have a nice little inter-show play here.
Bring it on.
All right. Anyone have an insane long shot that they back to win it all here?
I'm still gonna go with ETSU. I think if they get hot, I think if they get hot and are able to get past Chattanooga, they already know how to beat Furman if they have to see them later in the tournament. And then that matchup with either Wofford or VMI, I'd give them the edge against both of those teams just because I've already tried to back a team that lives and dies by the 3 a couple times in the tournament. Hasn't worked out well. and I think they're just a better, or I think they're equal to a little bit better than Wofford. So I think ETSU just being the team with nothing to lose, if they get past the 1 seed in the quarters, I can see them easily making a run into and through the championship.
Yeah, my only reservation and issue with ETSU is I can't back a 2-point defense that ranks above 300, let alone 330. That's my biggest perspective in it is, and when I'm looking for a team that can be consistent night over night, even when you start to lose the legs, if you can't guard the rim and you're relying on them dying by the 3, it could be highly volatile. So that's where we're still at plus 2,300. It's not terrible odds. I say they're backable odds for a flyer like what you're saying that you're doing, but it's one where there's no good reason why they should do it, but it's the time of year in conference tournament season, so I like it, Steven. Anyone else have a higher odds that they're putting a flyer on before we get to our semis and our official plays from this conference?
Not higher odds, but similar. I'll go back to VMI again, and some of the stuff that we talked about with Jose last night, they meet a lot of this criteria. And looking into just when I really started digging into this conference tournament, I didn't want them to meet this criteria because I'm like, oh God, am I actually going to back VMI publicly? So, but the two things I talked about last night were EFG, they're number 1 in the conference, and they and then least turnovers per possession, and they are 3rd in best in the conference. So I think when you factor in how they can get hot and stay hot for the over 20-1 that you're getting for it, I am not afraid to put a small flyer on VMI.
Yeah, and then I'll take a flyer on Stanford, 9-2 in their last 11 games, and I just Furman doesn't excite me this year, so I just think I like their path personally. I Uncg with the new coach, Furman I feel like is a weaker 2 seed, so Stanford, who's the hottest team in the conference, I think they make it to the finals, so I wouldn't mind sprinkling on them.
As much as I think it's complete up for grabs, I really just can't make a good case to back any of these teams at these odds. Furman being at plus 190 still is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. So if you want to back them, go for it. I just can't see it this year with the team. I mean, I love the Dins, but at this point, I don't think it's a team that's worth backing that money behind. If I had to take a money and I had a free play, I'd have to put it on Chattanooga, even though plus 270 or plus 210, sorry, plus 210 isn't the best odds. It still would be the one if you had to make me force a play on it. It would be the one I would go with. We do have odds for the opening round tomorrow up already. You got ETSU as 4.5 favorites, total all the way up at 152. And then you have Mercer as 5.5 point favorites, a little bit lower of a total there at 142. So the opening round does tip tomorrow, Friday. All right. Who wants to reveal their semis first and their winner and any official play for backing a team at the lower odds?
I'll go. So yeah, I think, as I just mentioned, I think Stanford makes a run at it. I think they beat Furman in the semifinals. I'm just not impressed with Furman this year. And in general, I feel like every year they're a top 3 seed in the SoCon. I just looked. The last time they made the tournament was 2017. So they just have a history of not closing it out in the SoCon tournament, come tournament play. Great regular season team, though. So you give me Stanford in the finals. Give me VMI to beat Wofford. So that means VMI makes it to the semis. But I'm with Rex. Chattanooga is a wagon this year. It is a great team. They did finish weak, and I'm a little surprised at that. But I just see this team as 2 steps above everyone else in this whole conference. I think they end up getting by VMI. I think they get by Stanford. I think they win a game in the NCAA tournament. I think they're that good. Malachi Smith, who is a sophomore, who younger players in mid-majors do collapse a little, but he's just a 20-point scorer, 6'4", has hit a buzzer beater this year. I like his swagger, and he has a Pippen. He has a running mate, a Robin, in Jean Baptiste, who's averaging like 15 himself. So 2 players for Chattanooga averaging 35 guard play. I think the guards get it done in the SoCon in a conference that lacks high-tier bigs, except VMI's big, who we didn't talk about too much. He averages like 20 points, but I think they get to the semis, but they get knocked out to Chattanooga.
And the one last thing to add with Chattanooga, they are getting D'Souza back as well. He played the last 2 games and getting a Power 5 transfer. Sure, maybe he didn't have the goods to stay at Kansas, but you do have the senior there, and you do run another guy in Darius Banks, who's another senior. So you have 2 to put against Malachi Smith. So sure, your one guy is that, but you got seniors surrounded around him, which makes me feel confident to yours, Goose, because I think we match. I have Chattanooga over Stanford in my finals as well. I originally had penciled in Uncg, but I just feel like it's going to be too easy, and I just want to be going against the grain because I don't know why. Something just tells me that Stanford catches them tomorrow.
They're hot.
Yeah,
Spin? What's yours?
And Goose, you're talking about VMI's big man. I didn't mention him because when you attempt 135 threes and you're third on the team in bombing away, even on a team like them, you're not a traditional big man. I mean, let's face it, they play 5 out. They play 5 out and bomb 3. So anyways, I have decided to go, some of my other ones have been a little more measured risk. I am going Chaos Conference here. So
yes.
I'm going Chaos. So I am going to take ETSU and I'm going to take Western Carolina both tomorrow, or in the first 2 games. I am going to take I'm going to take Chattanooga to get by. I'm going to take VMI to beat Wofford. I'm also going to take VMI to beat Chattanooga. And then for on the other side of the bracket, then I will have Furman and UNC Greensboro. And then in the final, VMI and Furman. And I'm gonna go with Furman to win because I think that they meet more of the of the mid-major criteria that I look for, especially on the defensive end, and especially the fact that they can actually beat you multiple ways, whereas VMI can really only beat you one. But I like just going upsets galore up until that point. So as far as the investing in the odds now, I'm not sure that plus 190 is enough to get me on Furman because of how wide open this conference is. So that's why I said earlier, I'd much rather take VMI at over 20-1.
And that we're all in agreement that bottom's the easy route, correct? Or I guess you wouldn't say easy. It's where not many teams separate themselves from that much each other, and anyone can win on any day there.
Yep.
Steven, what is yours?
Yep. So my teams in the semifinals, I'm going. I was trying to hype up ETSU. I still think Chattanooga realistically gets past them. Like it's my flyer. For some reason, Chattanooga loses. I like ETSU to go all the way, but I do think Chattanooga wins. I'll be with you, Spin Doc, with VMI as the other team in that semifinal. I don't see Mercer or Western Carolina getting past Furman, so I'll have Furman. And then I really do want to root for Samford, but I think this is the year they get bounced earlier than expected, and just those guys like Quez Glover, Jaden Campbell, and Wesley Cardette. I think them losing to UNCG, which is what I think will happen, just fuels them for next year because they all got time left to play, and this is really UNCG's essentially career for the majority of their players. So I got UNCG as my other semifinal team. I got UNCG beating Furman, Chattanooga beating VMI. So even with how much I want to see chaos, at the end of the day, I do see chalk in a final, and then it just ends up with Chattanooga taking it home, which it is the boring take, but I don't see it for many of these other teams at the end of the day.
Wait until You just see the Arkansas State guy miss a dunk at the buzzer. He put it off the back of the rim. But, Steven, I love that breakdown. Great analysis from you there. There is no team that we actually neglected or ignored in this conference. We did talk about the Citadel. We did talk about Western Carolina. We ran through all the teams in the SoCon in a half hour. Is there any other thoughts or anything you guys want to share?
I would actually. Oh, sorry, I was just going to say I would look a live line that I would look for because these totals are set high and rightfully so. But what we've seen in most of the conference tournament games, especially in some of the opening rounds, is guys coming out a little nervous. Guys are coming out with a little nerves here. So, one thing that I would look for is give it until about 10 minutes into the first half, because you can probably get the total at a much lower line. You can probably also look at a first half total to go over, because usually around the 10-minute mark is when the offense starts picking up. Guys get a little bit more used to it. They get used to the neutral floor. They just kind of shake some of the jitters out. I would especially say that for teams that have several younger guys. So then now you're talking about your Sanfords, you're talking about even Chattanooga with Smith. So I would some of the overs here are big numbers for a conference tournament game where presumably guys might be just have a little jitters and nerves to start with. So I would probably wait, like I said, 8 to 10 minutes into the game. That's when things start opening up, because you can get first half totals, team totals, and full game totals at a much, much lower price.
Yeah, all I'd say is for the people who are watching the bigger conferences right now, why? Like, it's just the end of the regular season for them. Well, what are they really playing for? What you should be watching is tournaments like the Big South that had 2 overtime games, a double overtime game, and a tip in at the buzzer in their games. And then the Sun Belt today, a team had a 3 at the end of the game to potentially tie it. Another game that came down to the buzzer. This third game was only a 4-point game. Like these conference tournaments are putting out great games. Just because they're not on TV doesn't mean they're not the best games to watch right now.
Yes, sir. So you got that with the SoCon tomorrow. We got all the afternoon action coming back next week. So make sure you get all your work done this week or call out for next week, because all the fun happens next week throughout. Even though opening weekend is amazing, next Monday through Friday does put it to the test, because from midnight or from noon to midnight, you'll have action going all day, every day. We're Paid for Play at Paid for Play on Twitter. Make sure to give us a like, follow, and retweet today's episode on at Daily Bread Media on YouTube. Other than that, we'll be live on Spaces tomorrow, right around your usual lunchtime. We appreciate all you who tapped in. We'll catch you later.